Today's topic is, do you need a childbirth class? I know, right? Because I'm a childbirth educator and I'm a doula, and like it's kind of counterintuitive for me to be even talking about this because of the fact that I do run classes and my friends run classes. But the truth is that this question keeps coming up inside the Facebook groups. I see it all the time. Moms saying, do I really need to take a childbirth class? Because I can get the books and I can get the stuff from the influencers online and I can get the stuff from the blogs and I can get all this free stuff off of YouTube videos and things. So do I really even need to invest? Well, let me just tell you something first. I took a childbirth class way back when I was a first-time mom because I am a lifelong learner. I am a perpetual student. I'm the kid that was always up at the front of the classroom, sitting next to the teacher and like getting really involved in classes. And like, that is my energy. My energy is very much, oh, get me in this learning environment. Let me learn something. Let me pick your brain some more. Let me challenge you. Let me get more out of this. And I mean, it was a little bit insufferable for my partner because I was just there like taking notes. I'm like, oh boy, I get to learn things. I get to learn things. I learned the wrong things. So this childbirth class that I took, which was through the hospital and taught by the maternity care nurse, and it was technically a natural childbirth class. They were talking about natural birth and coping mechanisms. And we held that thing of ice in our hands and we practiced the breathing techniques and we did all the positions and we did like the Lamaze breathing. And we had like our partner doing like the hip compression thing. And we had our partner like holding us as we were doing the different positions and swaying. We were taught about dilation. We were taught about the stages of labor. We were taught about interventions. And just to let you know, the intervention class, both times that I did, because I'm going to tell you another childbirth class I took. Yeah, I took two. Both times I would get like this like tingling at the back of my neck. Like, you know, that feeling when it's like really, really hot and you feel like you're about to throw up. So I would have that both times. And at the time, I didn't really understand why I was having a panic attack. Now I understand more about how our bodies react to stress and things that don't feel right. But at the time, I didn't understand it. All I'm like, it's like, but this isn't going to happen to me because I'm having a home birth. So why do I need to be so scared? Well, the thing is, this class, out of 20 students in the whole class, I was the only one who had a physiological birth. Everybody else had heavily medicalized births. The only other mom who had a vaginal birth had a vaginal birth with an episiotomy and vacuum assisted delivery. And that was so telling at the end with the graduation to find out that every other mom ended up having a C-section. Either they were induced and they had a C-section, or they had had a membrane sweep and they were going in and out of labor for days on end and finally couldn't take it anymore and decided to be induced, or decided to have their waters broken, or decided to have Pitocin. And then they ended up with a C-section. Some of them ended up having a C-section because their baby was going to be too big, or they had an induction because their baby was going to be too big, or one of them, she had been told that she had to have a C-section because her baby was breech. And the thing is that breech babies can even turn in labor, and a breech birth is possible vaginally. And the way that a breech cesarean is done and a breech vaginal, like it's basically the same. A breech extraction for vaginal breech birth and a breech extraction with a cesarean is basically the same thing. I've seen it. I watched it. I'm like, oh my God, that's the most violent way to pull out a baby. These poor babies. Now, a breech vaginal birth that's physiological does not look like that. Now, I'd love to get into that, of course, but the topic today, of course, is childbirth education. And this class, obviously, you don't want to take the classes done by the hospital. You don't want to take anything being taught by a nurse. Unless that nurse is an independent childbirth educator who can tell you the actual information about physiological birth and understands physiological birth. But those people are rare. I mean, I only have a few friends who are nurses who could teach that, who I would trust to send you to if you wanted to learn specifically from a nurse. So if you ever did have that need and you said, you know, I want to be taught by a nurse, I do know people who teach childbirth education who are nurses. But mostly you're going to want to learn from a doula or a midwife. Particularly, you're going to want to learn from a doula. An independent childbirth educator, we usually are doulas and also independent childbirth educators. I myself am an independent childbirth educator and a doula, and I also do coaching as well. So I coach mothers on having a physiological birth and stepping into their power. So the coaching comes in basically helping you release your fears so that you can step into your power, know that you have everything that you need to make decisions for yourself. And if any complications come up for you, I can ask you a specific question that will then basically make you go like, aha, I know what to do now. And then you can go and make that decision and be comfortable with it and not regret it. Because it's your decision. It's not something that somebody else has put fear on you. You now are in your power. So that's basically what I do on the coaching side. And that's the part I love to do the most, is the coaching side. I love the childbirth education too, but I've noticed that I really love the coaching side. And I love the teaching, and I love to do it, just recorded videos as well. And I love to teach here. I love to come up every single Tuesday at 1 p.m. and teach you this stuff, because it's things that you're not getting from the typical childbirth class. So to recap here on this, yes, you do need a childbirth class, but the ones that you're typically being suggested to take in mainstream suck. Okay, they suck. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. They suck. So I did take a different childbirth class, and this one was offered through my midwives. So these were free classes offered to clients within the maternity group. Sometimes if you're in a midwife practice, they do have free classes that you can take, or they have a lending library. This is another thing that you want to ask yourself when you're choosing a care provider of, what do I want for additional resources and support? Because chances are that you might be able to find somebody who has more of what you need, rather than just being like, oh, is this person available? Oh, is this person available? Oh, will this person take me? That's the wrong energy here. Okay. You want to step into your feminine energy, which is about basically qualifying and figuring out the deciding factor of, does this feel right to me? Does this sound like something that I want? The masculine energy is all about offering you things and giving you things and saying, this is what's on offer. And it's up to you to decide if you want that or if you want to create something else. So I'm really inviting you to step into your feminine energy here, because birth is an inherently feminine act. And the more practiced you are of stepping into your feminine energy, the more likely it is that come birthing day, you are so in it that you can just surrender and let your body do what it needs to do. And also be able to recognize when things do need to be controlled and when they don't. So that you can be like, no, I don't think I need that. No, thank you. And send them on their way. Instead of being stuck in your fear. Because being stuck in your fear blocks your feminine energy. It blocks that ability to really ask, well, what do I want? Now you're in a vulnerable place of, well, what do I do? How do I get out of this? And your masculine partner, or your partner who has the masculine energy, they don't know how to help you because they have not been taught enough about birth and about the feminine energy. And it's been seen as weakness. It's been seen as defective. It's been seen as wrong. And the childbirth classes also teach you that your feminine energy is defective and weak and wrong. Think about how it's taught. This is the dilation. If you must dilate 1 centimeter per hour. If you don't dilate 1 centimeter per hour, then your body is broken. It's not working. In fact, I just saw on Instagram just before I came on here is that your Badass Natural Birth, that particular channel, I love it for what they give for information. And it even had a video of people who don't understand physiological birth, don't understand that rest during labor or a labor that has stalled is not an emergency. It's not. And I was like, hell yes, thank you. Because what happened in my labor with my daughter really taught me about the feminine energy and really taught me about the ability to surrender and to recognize that rest is part of the process. So I didn't dilate 1 centimeter per hour. Even as a second-time mom, I wasn't going faster the way that the textbook said I was supposed to. But what happened is that I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to go to bed. And I kind of want to eat a hamburger before I go to bed. And labor has stopped from where it was. And my waters are still intact. My cervix is closing up. So maybe I can just let it go. I'm not going to call the midwife back until I'm pushing. Because if I call her back, she's going to try to control things. Because she's in a system that wants to control things. And part of the protocol of our health authority, I don't know if it's the same in every health authority, but typically with a registered midwife, what happens is that they have to call the hospital and say a home birth is in place. So even though the midwife is attending you at home, you're still on that clock at the hospital. You're still there. And I knew I was on that clock. And I knew I'd been on that clock for at least 12 hours. At least. And I was not willing to stay on that clock. So I sent her home so I wouldn't have to be on that clock. But they don't teach you that in typical childbirth classes. They teach you about dilation and they teach you the stages of labor and how things are supposed to progress. So if you deviate from that, what happens is you think that there's something wrong. And then you end up in a C-section or an induction or both. Or you end up giving in and getting the epidural. Or you end up giving in and getting a membrane sweep at 39 weeks because things aren't progressing the way that you think they are. And the truth is that if you are going to take a childbirth class, it needs to be one that teaches physiological birth. And it needs to be one that also teaches you the context of the system. And it needs to be one that also teaches you the cultural aspect of it, the societal implications, how things actually work, and why we're in this mess in the first place. And so that's what I really taught my students inside of my Take Charge of Birth program. It's what I do in my coaching. It's what I do if you ever got on a call with me. I would teach you that. I would give you that backstory. I would really go deep as you want me to go, because I can't do that on these videos. So the second one, do I need this if there's so much free information out there? Well, the thing is, you could, in theory, go out and find all of this information. You could, in theory, go and piece it all together. The problem is that I've been doing this now for almost a decade, and there's still so much that I'm learning every single day. When I was planning the home birth of my daughter, I had spent 2 years planning that. It wasn't, oh, I'm pregnant, now I need to go learn. It was, I'm not getting pregnant again until I know what I need to know to make sure that this stupid thing does not happen to me again. So I don't get talked out of my home birth ever again, because it's not okay. So I spent 2 years, and remember, I was a birth advocate. So I was really diving into the research. I mean, I was reading everything. And not only that, I also had access to doulas and midwives and nurses so that I could take my research that I was pulling out and then run it by them to get confirmation that what my theories were was actually true. So I didn't go to my regular appointments for my daughter just to have them check on my baby. I had those 45-minute appointments, and I got all excited because I'd read something. And I'm like, so I just read about this, and I have somebody who came to me about this, and I just want to know if I'm on the right track if I say this. And then they'd be like, oh yeah, actually, you've gone even further into it than I would have gone into it. Like, wow, go for it. I got to the point where people were actually coming to me, like the doulas and the midwives would come to me for information. Actually, a couple of my nurse friends also did this. They'd be like, hey, do you have a resource on this? Hey, do you have a resource on this? Can you look this up for me? I've got a research background. My dad was in college when I was 11. And then again, when I went to college, he was doing his nursing degree. So I've even read his papers over for him. I have gone deep. I understand the medical jargon. I understand statistics. I understand psychology. I understand sociology. I understand like historical context. Like there is so much because as I said, I'm a perpetual learner. So if you're the kind of person who loves to dive in to research, I'm just going to tell you that yes, theoretically, you could go and pull all this stuff out. Or you could also go the easier route and just ask a childbirth educator, and we'll tell you what you actually need to know and what's missing. Maybe you're missing a piece and you're trying to build a puzzle, but you're missing a few pieces. And we're like, you know what? You need to put these pieces together. A lot of the things that I teach, they tie into each other. If you have been following me for a while, then you know that I have the 5 pillars of empowerment. And that all of these pillars, if you are missing even one, everything can come crashing down. So I really teach you how to optimize these. And again, I built this system over almost a decade. Your partner is a wild card. And if they are not on board or they are in your way, that can derail your birth just as much as not having the right care provider, or not having the right childbirth class, or not having the right doula, or not having the right education, or not having the right mindset going in, not releasing those fears. All of these things can pull your birth so that you are no longer in your feminine energy. You are no longer able to surrender to what your body needs. You are no longer able to tune into your intuition, and you are contracted and in fear. And as long as you are contracted and in fear and unable to just surrender, you're going to have problems. A lot of the reasons why birth doesn't work very well anymore is not because our bodies are defective. It's because the feminine energy has not been honored. It has been crushed. It has been manipulated. It has been said over and over that women are weak. Our feminine energy is weak. Our bodies are defective. No, that's not what's going on here. It's misogyny that's going on here. So the misogyny and the cultural context of masculine good, feminine bad, and the way that we have even been taught to control and to be rigid and to do things in a way that is more masculine has really taken us away from that. So by coming back into your feminine energy, you're actually going to be able to have a much better birth experience. One with less pain, less problems after birth with postpartum, including less tearing, possibly even no tearing at all, as my client Rebecca got, which I was just like blown away. You're going to have a more empowered experience. You're going to be able to go with the flow of your body. You're going to be able to tune into your intuition, and you're going to be able to show your partner how to support you. And that is really important because your partner is the masculine energy coming in to protect you as you are wild in your feminine. If you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you're in the guide section of this group, because I have a whole bunch of PDF files that are going to help you with anything from figuring out how to hire a doula, how to get the right care provider, how to avoid an induction, and how to avoid all of the mistakes that are being made in natural birth. So make sure you are checking out that guide section. Make sure you're watching the videos in there. I've taken a lot of time to add to them over the last year and a half, and I will see you next week. Bye.